اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفقها في الدين يا رب العالمين وألحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. Here we stopped on hadith number 1650 on the chapter of marriage. Here we continue inshallah. This hadith is on the authority of Salama radiyallahu anha. وعن سلمة رضي الله تعالى عنها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أيما امرأة ماتت وزوجها عنها راض دخلت الجنة رواه ابن ماجه والترمذي وحسنه الحاكم. This hadith is narrated in Ibn Majah, in Tirmidhi, and Imam Hakim has said this hadith is Hasan. This hadith is sound and sahih to quote. Salama radiyallahu anha, she says Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, any woman who dies, any woman who dies in a state where her husband is pleased with her, happy with her, dakhalatil jannah. She has guaranteed her paradise. She dies in a state where the husband is happy with her. Okay? The first condition is that Allah must be happy with you. And the second condition for the wife, the most important thing to her is her husband, is pleasing and being obedient to her husband. So if these two are met, then inshallah her Jannah is guaranteed. Of course, there will always be husbands that will show displeasure even when she's trying to do her best. So this is not taken into consideration. This is a general hadith talking about in generality that a woman does her duties towards her husband to the utmost best of her abilities. Then in this case, inshallah, her Jannah will be guaranteed due to the pleasure, due to the happiness of the husband. This is what we understand from the hadith. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا صلت المرأة خمسها وحصنت فرجها وأطاعت بعلها دخلت من أي أبواب الجنة شاءت رواه ابن حبان في صحيحه. This hadith is in Sahih Ibn Hibban, just like Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. Likewise, there's a book called Sahih Ibn Hibban. So here it is narrated on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, if a woman prays her 5 salahs, which is nowadays is the most difficult thing upon women, they can do everything else but neglect their salahs. Unfortunately, this is the time and day that we're living in. Everything else is secondary to your salah. Every single thing is secondary to your salah. Your work, your job, your career, your cooking, your eating, your cleaning, your ironing, your washing, every single thing comes after salah. First, fulfill the obligations to Allah. First, fulfill what is compulsory and what is due to Allah. Allah is instructing you to give this. This is His haqq. Give Allah's haqq. So, إِذَا صَلَّتِ الْمَرْأَةُ خَمْسَهَا. If the woman prays her 5 salahs, that's the first condition. وَحَصَّنَتْ فَرْجَهَا. She protects her private part. Meaning she's completely loyal to her husband only. She doesn't look for affairs out of marriage. The third condition is وَأَطَاعَتْ بَعْلَهَا. And she obeys her husband. Whenever the husband says anything which is in line with our deen, she obeys him immediately. This is the third condition. She only has 3 conditions and her Jannah is reserved. Look. دخلت من أي أبواب الجنة شاء. She will enter whichever doors, whichever gates of paradise she wishes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives her the option of going into paradise with whichever gate of Jannah she wills and she wishes and she wants to go into. Subhanallah. How many gates of Jannah? 8, mashallah. 8 gates of Jannah, yes. Jahannam has 7 gates. And due to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Jannah has 8 gates. Okay, this is the mercy and the overwhelming rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah has created 8 gates for Jannah. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, the highest category of all the Sahaba, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I wish that you will enter any of the doors that you wish. Subhanallah. So this was the status of Abu Bakr, singled out Abu Bakr only. Here in this specific hadith, Abu Bakr was singled out, that whichever gate of paradise you wish to enter, you will enter. Khair, inshallah. So here for the woman, she can get that reward. She can get the reward of the status of similar to that of Abu Bakr here. Subhanallah. She can enter any gate of Jannah she wishes. Allahu Akbar. Why? She only prayed her 5 times Salah on time. She didn't delay it. She didn't do qada of it. And Hassanat farjaha. She never ever looked out of her marriage. She was only with her husband and only protecting her private parts only to her husband and no one else. She wasn't looking for anyone else out of marriage. وَأَطَاعَتْ بَعْلَهَا. And the third condition is that she obeyed her husband, of course in the things which are allowed to be obeyed in. If it's something against deen, then you can't obey your husband. Okay, if something is against deen, like for example, your mom and dad, they say something against deen, then you cannot obey them. You must politely say no. Okay. Likewise to your husband as well. If your husband says something which is contrary and conflicting to the rules and commands of our deen, then the husband cannot be obeyed in those matters. But other than those matters, those things which are allowed and permissible and recommended in Sharia, she must obey him in. So those are the 3 conditions. If she does these, then inshallah, her Jannah is guaranteed in whichever gate that she wishes. وعن حسين بن محصن رضي الله عنه أن عمة له أتت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال لها أذات زوج أنت؟ قالت نعم. قال فأين أنت منه؟ قالت ما آلوه إلا ما عجزت عنه. قال فكيف أنت له؟ فإنه جنتك ونارك. رواه أحمد والنسائي بإسنادين جيدين والحاكم قال صحيح الإسناد. This hadith is a very authentic hadith. It is reported in Musnad Imam Ahmad, Sunan an-Nasa'i and Imam Hakim. Imam Hakim says it is Sahih. Imam Nasa'i and Imam Ahmad says they are good to narrate. Here, one of the aunts of a Sahabi came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who asked her, are you married? She said, yes, I'm married. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, how are you with him? How are you towards your husband? She said, I do not disappoint him unless I am helpless to do something. Meaning, in a situation where I cannot do it, that's the only situation I keep myself, meaning I can't do it. But other than that, I try not to disappoint him. I try to make him happy as much as I can. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, he is your paradise and he is your hellfire. Your husband, for the wife, your husband is your hellfire and your husband is your Jannah. So you treat him accordingly. Meaning, if you treat him to the best of your ability and he is happy with you, then your Jannah is reserved. And if you treat him badly, then your Jahannam is also reserved. So this is a very stern, strong statement from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that a wife must treat her husband very cautiously and try her best to please him in all ways. And this is part of our deen. You know, many people think that this is part of culture. This is not culture. This is not culture. This is our deen, that a woman must obey her husband and must understand to respect her husband. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت سألت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أي الناس أعظم حقا على المرأة قال زوجها قلت فأي الناس أعظم حقا على الرجل قال أمه رواه البزار والحاكم. This hadith is in Musnad al-Bazzar and Mustadrak of al-Hakim. It is narrated on the authority of Aisha radiallahu anha that she asked, Ayyun nasi a'zam? I asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which person has the greatest right over the woman? Which person has the greatest right over the woman? Rasulullah replied, the husband. Meaning, to the wife, the most important thing in her life is her husband. The person that she owes the most haqq, owes the most rights, is her husband. There is no one. So first, if you look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, fulfill Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's duties, then we find our parents, and then we find our husbands and wives. So this order must still be maintained. Then here, for the wife, after she gets married, because she is under the husband, it is a due right upon her that she fulfills his right in every form and in every way. Then she was asked, فَأَيُّ النَّاسِ أَعْظَمُ حَقًّا عَلَى الرَّجُلِ? What about a man? Who is he indebted with rights? Meaning, who's most rightful to the man? Rasulullah replied, his mom, his mother. His mother. So, a woman can't come and say that the most amount of rights that a man has is towards his wife. No, this is not the case. A man, he's got a different responsibility in Islam. He has to look after all his family, generally speaking. That's why the inheritance is given in that way, because the man is always the leader inside the household. And he has to distribute and he has to help everyone out. That's why he's left generally, even after giving inheritance, he's not left with much, because he has to spend on everyone on the family, generally speaking. So here, فَأَيُّ النَّاسِ أَعْظَمُ حَقًّا عَلَى الرَّجُلِ? Who's the most rightful to a man? Rasulullah replies, his mother. His mother. He must look after his mother and get the dua of his mother. Whereas, when it comes to the woman's issue, a woman who is married, the most rightful towards, that she must be towards, is to her husband. So, everyone must keep their priority in line. If you're a woman, you must make sure that your husband is pleased with you at all times. If you're a husband, again, you must look towards her, whatever you can fulfill of her rights. You mustn't trample over her rights, but as well as you mustn't forget your mother. Many people, they go into their own houses and they forget their own mothers and fathers. They don't care about their mothers and fathers. This is against the teachings of Deen. You must come and be obedient to your mothers and fathers for all that they have done for you all throughout your life. وعن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله تعالى عنه قال أتى رجل بابنته إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال إن ابنتي هذه أبت أن تتزوج. Here we have a lot of feminists nowadays, and they don't want to get married. Why? Because of too many conditions. Here there was a woman who was brought, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu anhu, he said that a man brought his daughter. Of course, they kept it vague in order to keep it private, because again, your daughter is something which is preserved and protected. So in our Sharia, we don't normally expose who it is. Anyway, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he says, a man came with his daughter to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam complaining that my daughter refuses to get married. Refuses to get married. She doesn't want to get married. Now he's in trouble. The father is in trouble. The daughter doesn't want to get married. What should he do? So he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فقال لها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أطيعي أباكِ. Rasulullah said, obey your father, meaning listen to your father and just get married. So فقالت والذي بعثك بالحق لا أتزوج حتى تخبرني ما حق الزوج على زوجته. But imagine she's saying in front of Rasulullah, now to Rasulullah, verily the one who has sent you with the truth, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, verily the one who has sent you with the truth, I will not get married until, she is saying this to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I will not get married until you tell me the rights of the husband, meaning what rights does a wife have towards her husband. قال حق الزوج على زوجته لو كانت به قرحة فلحستها أو إن ترى من خراه صديدا أو دما ثم ابتلعته ما أدت حقه. Here, I'll translate it in the most best possible way, inshallah. That the right of the husband the right of the wife towards her husband is that even if he were to bleed in his body and she were to look after that, meaning if he was in a serious situation, the easiest way I can explain this without translating literally, because literally a person would misunderstand this hadith. Even if he was in a serious condition, serious terminal illness and she's looking after him continuously, ma addat haqqahu, it will not be enough, meaning his haqq will not be fulfilled. The husband's haqq, the husband's rights will not be fulfilled, even if she were to look after him continuously in chronic illness, in terminal illness. Okay, this is the amount of right that a man has over his wife, meaning a wife must be obedient in every situation, no matter what happens to the husband. Just like he was there for you, you must be there for him. قالت والذي بعثك بالحق لا أتزوج أبدا. Here, now, she is a feminist. She's a type of feminist. You know, nowadays people think that feminists never exist. Back in the days, they also existed. Look, والذي بعث, because now she knows how much of a burden it is to look after a husband and how much rights he has over you. She says, وَالَّذِي بَعَثَكَ بِالْحَقِّ, the one who has sent you with the truth, I will not get married. I will not get married. فَقَالَ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم, here in reply, Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, لَا تُنْكِحُوهُنَّ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِنَّ, don't get them married except with their permission. Meaning when they are ready, let them get married. Don't force them into marriage. This is advice to the father. This is the advice to the father. So, this hadith is narrated in Bazzar bi isnadin jayyid wa ibn Hibban fi sahihi. Okay? The next hadith, here I'm going to summarize the hadith because it's a long hadith. Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, this hadith is reported in Nasa'i, and also the hadiths are sound and authentic. Nasa'i, Ahmad, Ibn Hibban, Bazzar, many other books. One family, they had a camel that would let them use, of course, they would get the water on the back of the camel. So this camel, it was normally used to go and get water from far distance, from the well. Well was probably far away, maybe 1 or 2 miles away, Allahu A'lam, yeah? So they used to use this camel, to use it to get water from the well. Now what happened is this camel started rebelling. It stopped letting them use its back, meaning it won't listen to them anymore. It went mad, it went crazy. So they came, this family came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I'm just giving you the crux of the hadith, it's too long to explain. So they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said, they explained the problem. They said, look, we had a camel, and this is the only camel that we have to bring water for our drinking, for our flock, for our vegetation, for our cultivation, everything. This is the water that we use. And now this camel, this is the only camel we have, and this camel is not listening to us anymore. It's rebelling. So what shall we do? This camel, when it came to Rasulullah, immediately it fell into sajda. It fell into sajda. The camel fell into sajda. So everyone is shocked. Sahabas are shocked. This is a miracle of Rasulullah. This camel doesn't listen to anyone. It's gone crazy. It's a mad camel. But when it came in front of Rasulullah, immediately it made sajda. It made sajda. When the Sahaba saw this, they made a comment. They said, Ya Rasulullah, this is a camel that doesn't even have aql. It doesn't have any intelligence. It's a being, it's a creation that doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have an intelligence. Whilst we are beings that have intelligence. We are human beings. We have intelligence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us aql. It is more appropriate for us to make sajda to you. It is more appropriate, meaning the Sahaba are saying this. Yeah? It is more appropriate for us intelligent beings to make sajda to you, just like the camel who is less intelligent is making sajda to you in front of our eyes. So here Rasulullah said, no. When I pass away and you come to my grave, will you make sajda to my grave? They said, no, of course not. So he said, likewise, it is not appropriate that you make sajda to me. because I am also a human being at the same time. Yes, Allah has elevated my status. I am the best of humankind. I'm Sayyidul Anbiya wal Mursaleen. But at the same time, you don't go to excess like the Christians went to excess. Okay? Then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this statement, he said, if there was anyone that were to make sajda, then I would have commanded the wife to make sajda to the husband. So this is the story behind this statement. You know, normally you hear this statement, but you don't understand why. This, you know, they don't like to mention the story behind this, because it goes against their, you know, what they teach. Because here it shows, see, is it allowed to make sajda? Yes or no? To a human being, in our Sharia, it's not allowed. In the Sharia of Yusuf alayhi salam, it was allowed, you know, but that was out of respect. It's like out of, you know, in China, when you go and meet someone, they go and do this, they bend down. Yes? They bend down. This is out of respect, and it's a greeting bow. In our Sharia, it's prohibited. In our Sharia, it's absolutely prohibited to even do this. Even to bow down or to prostrate, this is absolutely haram now in our Sharia. In the Sharia of Yusuf alayhi salam and the previous Anbiya, it was allowed. Only the prostration of greeting, respect, not the prostration of worship. Prostration of worship is absolutely haram. It's absolutely haram. That's only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all Shari'ahs, from the Sharia of Adam alayhi salam until Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay? Worship, and Sahabas could not say this. Otherwise, do you understand what you're saying towards Sahaba? Sahaba are saying, if the camel who is unintelligent, it doesn't have intelligence, if the camel is making sajda to you, Ya Rasulullah, and this is a mad camel, it's gone crazy, yes? Why should we not make sajda to you? You are more worthy of us, intelligent beings who have brains, who have intelligence, to make sajda to you. Sahabas are asking to make sajda to Rasulullah. So this sajda is the sajda of greeting and respect, not the sajda of worship. Not the sajda of worship. And this is clear from the hadith. Okay, anyone that reads the hadith and understands the hadith in the correct way will understand this. The next hadith we have, I'll give you the crux of this hadith as well. Mu'adh ibn Jabal, radiyallahu anhu, he came from Sham. Sham is where? Sham is Syria, Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon. All of what's happening right now, this is the place called Sham. Mostly they refer to Syria, but Palestine is also included in Sham. So Sham, he came from Sham, Mu'adh ibn Jabal, one of the greatest Sahabas. And what did he see there? He saw that all the people used to make sajda to their leaders, بَطَارِقَتِهِمْ وَأَسَاقِفِهِمْ, their ministers and their leaders. They're great people, basically. They're great people. They used to go and make sajda to these people, to their leaders. Let's understand them as leaders. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So Mu'adh bin Jabal came in and he done this. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, don't do this. La taf'al. Fala taf'al. Don't do this. Mu'adh ibn Jabal came and he immediately made sajda because he saw this in Sham. So he came and done what he saw out of respect to Rasulullah. But Rasulullah prohibited this. He said, no, don't do this. This is not appropriate. فَإِنِّي لَوْ أَمَرْتُ شَيْئًا أَنْ يَسْجُدَ لِشَيْءٍ لَأَمَرْتُ الْمَرْأَةَ أَنْ تَسْجُدَ لِزَوْجِهَا. If I were to make sajda compulsory upon anyone to make sajda, then the wife, I would have made the wife make sajda to her husband because of the amount of rights she has towards the husband. She has the amount of rights she has towards her husband. These ahadiths are necessary for women folk to read. If they don't read this, they will not understand the status of a man in Islam. Okay? And then he says, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَا تُؤَدِّي الْمَرْأَةُ حَقَّ رَبِّهَا حَتَّى تُؤَدِّي حَقَّ زَوْجِهَا. Subhanallah. A woman, next hadith, some of the other hadiths are coming inshallah next week. A woman, she will never be able to fulfill, this is the literal meaning of the hadith. She will never be able to fulfill the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until and unless she fulfills the rights of her husband. Until and unless she fulfills the rights of her husband. This is how important. In another hadith it says her salah and her fasting is not valid. Her salah and her fasting is not valid if the husband is displeased. Just like your mother and your father, when they are displeased with you, nothing of yours will matter anymore. Likewise, here as well, it's a harsh statement, it's a harsh threat from Rasulullah in order for us to wake up, in order for us to understand the right of the husband and the right of the mother and father. Here, of course, it's talking about the right of the husband specifically, that a woman, she will never be able to fulfill the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until and unless she fulfills the right of the husband. And this hadith is in Ibn Majah and Sahih Ibn Hibban. I made it clear that it is not allowed in our Sharia to make sajda to any grave. It is not allowed to make sajda to any saints, any Maulana, any Mufti, any Sheikh, anyone. Okay, in our Sharia, it's absolutely prohibited. In some of the aqwal that you find, for example, in the Shafi'i madhab, some of the great scholars in the Shafi'i madhab, they allowed kissing the tombstone, where the grave, basically, out of love, out of respect. But it is detrimental in our age, because nowadays you find the fitna that everyone thinks it's shirk. So now, in order for you to get away from that tuhma, that claim that this is shirk, you'd rather not do it. Something which is permissible in that case, you'd rather not do it, even if it is permissible. Even if it is permissible, you'd rather not do it, because people will have doubts about you. That this guy is going and kissing the grave of someone. So he must be committing shirk then. What else must it be? And he's bending down, so he must be making sajda. Do you understand where it's going to go? So rather you do not do these things. That's why in Ifta, in the Mufti course, they normally teach you Saddud Dhara'i'. Saddud Dhara'i' is before anything that leads to haram is haram. Anything that leads to haram is haram. Anything that would lead to shirk is going to have the hukum of shirk, meaning you must stop it from the roots. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, if you let them understand, if you allow people to understand that it is allowed to go and kiss the grave, for example, because Ibn Hajar al-Haytami said it, because of many other scholars, Allama Suyuti said it, and many other ulama said it. If you say that, a person will misunderstand this and he will say, oh, then it is, Ustad said it's allowed to go and kiss the grave of some alim or some ulama or some awliya. You understand where he's going to go? He's going to go into other forms of shirk. So you'd rather not do it and not go close to doing it, because it's going to cause doubts about you and your religion. Okay? So it's best not to do it, even though it's mentioned inside the books. Even though it's mentioned inside the books. For example, the hadith in Muslim, that it is not allowed to have the grave more than one handspan. Okay? This is the hadith, this is the general view of the hadith, and general ulama, they go for it. But when it comes to, for example, great saints, great awliya that passed away, in order to preserve their grave, is it allowed to make a tomb? Majority of the ulama said it's allowed. Majority, vast majority of the ulama said, in all the four madhabs, they said it's allowed. The Hanafis are a bit more strict when it comes to this. Very few of them allowed this. Very few of them allowed this. But the other madhabs, the other three madhabs, the Hanbalis, the Shafis, and the Malikis, they were more lenient when it came to this. That in order to preserve the graves of our saints, of our scholars, of our greats in Islam, it is allowed to protect their graves and to make them, single them out, to know who this grave is. Unfortunately, nowadays, we don't know any of the graves of anyone anymore, because of what's happening and what has happened previously in this 100 years. Because they call everything shirk, and they call everything bid'ah, and they call everything kufr and fisk, which is completely contrary to the deen teachings that we have and all the past 1400 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.